A former Kent-based soldier and SAS trooper is calling for the government to fund charities like his, which use alternative therapy techniques to combat post-traumatic stress disorder. Bob Paxman, a former Royal Engineer based in Maidstone and Gillingham, was himself diagnosed with the condition and says his group, Talking2minds, is regularly receiving new cases from soldiers currently on the front line. Today, he met with the Shadow Defence Secretary, Liam Fox, about what the Conservatives would do, if in power, to fund projects like his. Bob Paxman told me his story of when he first realised something was wrong.
It's awful. It devastates those around you, not just the client. It devastates those around the client, and it also has a social impact as well. I lost my first marriage through PTSD.
You knew that post-traumatic stress disorder was really affecting your life when you were in a supermarket.
Yeah, I had some very outrageous behaviours. Anger and aggression displayed in the supermarket isn't really the done thing. It's just, same with various incidents in restaurants and in taxis. It's just not acceptable. And there's a lot of guys out there that are running huge amounts of anger around various issues, which is having collateral damage on the social environment in which they're living.
But your second wife knew that this was affecting you to such an extent, seeing the behaviour. I mean, am I right that you were going down aisles and you were looking out for people, wondering what was around the corner?
Yeah, it got to the point where it was ridiculous. I thought I was being followed all the time. I was hypervigilant to the point where I was savagely aggressive towards people, and that kind of behaviour, it's not normal, whatever normal is, but it's not normal.
Including your own family?
Including my own family, yeah. Bouts of rage, on several occasions. I've destroyed the house, and I'm sure there's many people out there that can relate to the uncontrollable rage. On further investigation, I went and saw a doctor who referred me to the NHS. The NHS then referred me to a charity that provides respite. And through the process and through the treatments that were given, I basically was diagnosed with PTSD. I was certainly helped with my PTSD with the system that I engaged with, which is based on neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy and hypnosis. And I got to the point where I actually felt so passionate about helping others, and because I've been able to identify the stress disorders in others as well, I thought it was time that I actually stepped up to the plate and raised the awareness around PTSD.
And as a result of you talking about your own issues with post-traumatic stress, I understand you are regularly getting serving current Kent soldiers coming forward and talking to you, and those who have been in theatres of conflict in the past.
Yeah, it's not just from Kent, it's right across the board. We're getting lots of guys that want to stay in. They want to engage with something that's going to help them so that they can stay in. Because the problem is, at the moment, as soon as somebody throws their hand up and says, I'm suffering here, they're then pushed to one side. And then they're extricated from the environment, from their friends, from their unit, if you like, and then pushed down the medical discharge route.
The MOD have said to us that as a charity you may see more clients, but the MOD are not seeing a massive rise in rates of diagnosis for post-traumatic stress disorder. They say they are no different from any other year, and the figures are there for all to see.
Well, yeah, the figures may be there for all to see, but from the military perspective, it's post-traumatic stress response, which isn't PTSD. It's two completely different things. So a whole raft of guys are being medically discharged with PTSR, which is the signs and symptomology of PTSD, and then they're being diagnosed with PTSD after they've had their discharge.
The MOD saying that they do deploy psychiatrists within theatre of conflict, and their psychiatrists are back here across the country, which outpatients can see as well.
That doesn't touch the majority of cases.
Why?
So because it's a generative therapy as opposed to a remedial therapy. Our therapy has been designed specifically for PTSD.
On the issue of funding, the MOD saying any treatment programme has to be recommended by NICE.
The NICE process, it takes 15 years and about £15 million to get the empirical data to have that NICE recognition. We haven't got 15 years. We've got guys out there that are suffering. We've got more suicides now since the Falklands than guys that were actually killed in combat.
Today you saw the Shadow Defence Secretary Liam Fox about the need for relatively new charities like your own to secure government funding if indeed the Conservatives were to win the next general election. With that in mind, what did Liam Fox say to you, and were you pleased by what he said?
I was very happy. I'm very encouraged by what Liam Fox had to say. Certainly, as and when the Conservatives then come into power, there will be provision made for organisations like ourselves to have funding where. Have funding in the future, whereas at present their hands are tied with funding.
Bob Paxman talking to me from our Westminster studio earlier today. The MOD says it does fund charities such as Combat Stress and work with other groups such as Help for Heroes. It's BBC Radio.